The throne room smelled like death and ozone. Queen Velara of the Reshkulith Empire sat motionless on her crystalline seat, her 4 eyes fixed on the viewing portal that showed nothing but space. 300 years of space. 300 years of silence. 300 years of searching, hoping, praying to gods she no longer believed in. Her daughters were gone. Commander Zenth approached cautiously, his footsteps echoing across the obsidian floor. He had served the queen for 70 years, and in all that time he had never seen her smile. "Not once, your majesty," he began, his voice trembling slightly. "The human delegation has arrived." Velara's upper right eye twitched. Humans. The newest species to stumble into galactic politics, barely 2 centuries since they discovered faster-than-light travel. Primitive, loud, irritatingly optimistic. She had no patience for them today, or any day really, but the Galactic Council had insisted. "Send them away," she said flatly. "They specifically requested an audience with you, my queen. They claim it concerns your daughters." The temperature in the throne room dropped 10 degrees. Velara rose from her seat, her towering 9-foot frame casting shadows across the walls. Her biomechanical armor rippled with barely contained rage, the living metal responding to her emotional state. "What did you just say?" Zenth swallowed hard. "The human captain says he has information about Princess Kira and Princess Lena. He says he knows where they are." For a moment, Velara considered having Zenth executed for even suggesting such a cruel joke. 300 years of false leads, charlatans, and con artists had taught her to trust nothing and no one. Hope was a poison, and she had built up quite the immunity. But something in Zenth's voice made her pause. "Bring them in," she commanded. "If they are lying, I will personally disintegrate every molecule in their bodies." 2 minutes later, the doors opened. A human male walked in, flanked by 2 others. He was younger than she expected, maybe 40 in human years, with graying hair at his temples and laugh lines around his eyes. He wore a beat-up leather jacket over what appeared to be civilian clothing, not military dress. Behind him, a tall woman with cybernetic enhancements carried a data pad, and a shorter man with nervous energy practically bounced on his heels. The lead human stopped 10 feet from the throne and did not bow. Instead, he smiled. Actually smiled like he was greeting an old friend at a cafe rather than addressing the most feared monarch in 7 star systems. "Queen Velara," he said, his voice rough but warm. "Name's Marcus Cole. These are my associates, Dr. Yuki Tanaka and Sam Rodriguez. We need to talk about your kids." Velara's claws extended involuntarily, scraping against her armrests with a sound like swords being sharpened. "You have 30 seconds before I decide whether to kill you quickly or slowly." Marcus did not flinch. "Fair enough. 307 years ago, your daughters were on a diplomatic mission to the Outer Rim. Their ship, the Celestial Dawn, was attacked by unknown forces. No survivors, no wreckage, no trace. Everyone assumed they died. They did not." The queen felt something crack inside her chest, something she thought had turned to stone centuries ago. "Proof. Now." Dr. Tanaka stepped forward, her cybernetic eye glowing as she projected a hologram into the center of the room. It showed a frozen planet, designation unknown, covered in ice storms and marked as uninhabitable by every galactic survey. "We found this world 6 months ago," Tanaka explained, her Japanese accent subtle but present. "It is not on any official charts because it exists in a space-time anomaly, a pocket dimension created by an experimental weapon. Time moves differently there. What has been 300 years for you has only been about 15 years for anyone trapped inside." Velara stood completely still, processing this information. "You expect me to believe my daughters have been alive this entire time, trapped in some pocket dimension and nobody noticed?" "Nobody was looking in the right place," Sam interjected, unable to contain his enthusiasm. "The weapon that created the anomaly was a prototype, stolen during the attack on their ship. The attackers used it as a cage, not a weapon. They wanted to hide the princesses, not kill them. Why? That is where things get interesting. Marcus pulled out a small device and tossed it onto the floor. It projected another image, this one showing two Reshkalith females, tall and regal, with the distinctive silver markings of the royal bloodline. They looked tired, older than Velara remembered, but very much alive. Kira, Lena, her daughters. The queen made a sound that was part sob, part roar. Her guards tensed, unsure how to react to this unprecedented display of emotion. How do I know this is not another trick? Velara demanded, her voice breaking. How do I know you are not showing me computer-generated fantasies to manipulate me? Marcus reached into his jacket and pulled out something small wrapped in cloth. He approached the throne slowly, hands visible, and placed it on the steps leading up to Velara's seat. She descended and unwrapped it with shaking hands. It was a music box. Small, delicate, made from earth materials, wood and brass. Velara had given it to Kira on her 100th birthday, a curiosity from the new human homeworld that had just made first contact. The inscription on the bottom was in Kira's own handwriting, added years later. Mom, if you're reading this, it means someone found us. Trust the humans. They are annoying, but they actually give a damn. Love you. Come get us. Kira. Velara clutched the music box to her chest and wept. 300 years of grief came pouring out in a torrent that shook the palace walls. Her guards looked away, uncomfortable witnessing their invincible queen finally break. When she finally composed herself, Velara looked at Marcus with eyes that burned like dying stars. Why? Why would you do this? What do you want from me? Marcus shrugged. Payment would be nice. We are not exactly swimming in credits. But honestly, when we figured out who was trapped in that anomaly, we knew we had to get them out. Nobody deserves that kind of prison. Plus, your daughters promised to introduce me to your head chef. I hear Reshkalith cuisine is spectacular. Despite everything, Velara laughed. It was a harsh, bitter sound, rusty from disuse, but it was real. You risk your life, spend months searching for my children, and all you want is dinner and some money? Well, when you put it like that, it sounds kind of stupid, Sam muttered. It is stupid, Tanaka agreed. But it is also the right thing to do. Your daughters taught us a lot during our brief communications with them. They are good people. The galaxy needs more of those. Velara descended from her throne completely and stood before Marcus, studying him with all four eyes. She saw scars, laugh lines, and calluses on his hands from years of hard work. She saw someone who had probably been told no 1,000 times and kept pushing forward anyway. She saw something she had not seen in centuries. Hope? Tell me everything, she commanded, her voice steady now. Tell me how to get them back. Marcus grinned. That is where things get complicated. The anomaly is not stable. We can open it, but only for about 90 seconds before it collapses. The planet inside is hostile. -100 degrees Celsius on a good day. Gravity is 1.8 times galactic standard. And the dimensional walls are thin enough that reality gets a bit wobbly if you stay too long. I will send my entire fleet, Velara declared. That would destabilize the anomaly and kill everyone inside, Tanaka countered. We need a small team. Fast extraction. In and out before the walls collapse. I am going, Velara stated flatly. Figured you would say that, Marcus replied. That is why we brought suits rated for the environment. But your majesty, you need to understand something. The people who put your daughters there? They are still out there. They have been waiting 300 years for someone to find that prison. The moment we open it, they will know. This is not just a rescue mission. It is bait for a trap. Good, Velara said, her voice colder than the frozen planet where her daughters waited. I have spent 3 centuries waiting for someone to answer for what happened. If these cowards want to show their faces, I will gladly remove those faces from their bodies. Sam whistled low. Okay, that was genuinely terrifying. I like her. Velara turned her attention to her commander. Zenth, mobilize the Shadow Guard. I want our fastest ship prepared for immediate departure. Full weapons loadout. If anyone tries to stop us from retrieving my daughters, I want enough firepower to turn their entire fleet into cosmic dust. Yes, my queen. Zenth saluted and practically ran from the throne room. Marcus watched this with an amused expression. You know, most people would say thank you at some point. Velara fixed him with a stare that could melt steel. Bring my daughters home alive, human. Then I will thank you. Fail, and I will ensure your name becomes a curse that parents use to frighten children for the next 1,000 years. Fair enough, Marcus agreed cheerfully. No pressure or anything. Dr. Tanaka began uploading coordinates and technical data to the palace computers, muttering to herself about dimensional frequencies and temporal displacement. Sam was already on his communicator, coordinating with their ship crew. Velara looked down at the music box in her hands, then carefully wound the key. A simple melody played, something human and ancient, a lullaby from Earth. Kira had loved it. 300 years, she whispered. 300 years I have ruled this empire with an iron fist. I have crushed rebellions, won wars, and expanded our territory across 100 worlds, and not a single day passed that I did not think about them. Not one. Marcus stood beside her, hands in his pockets. For what it is worth, they never stopped thinking about you either. That message Kira left? She wrote it about 5 years ago, their time. She said even if centuries passed by here, she knew you would never stop looking. She was right. Of course she was right, Velara said fiercely. She is my daughter. They both are. And I am about to show this entire galaxy what happens when someone takes my family from me. The human smiled, and this time, there was something dangerous in that expression. Your Majesty, I think we are going to get along just fine. The approach to the anomaly was anything but smooth. Marcus gripped his seat restraints as the Queen's flagship. The Retribution shuddered through another pocket of distorted space. The viewport showed something that made his brain hurt to look at, a swirling mass of frozen time and fractured reality that pulsed like a diseased heart. Readings are off the charts, Tanaka reported from her station, her cybernetic eye flickering as it processed impossible data. The dimensional walls are thinner than we calculated. We have maybe 60 seconds inside, not 90. Fantastic, Sam muttered, checking his environmental suit for the 5th time. I love it when the deadly mission becomes more deadly. Queen Velara stood at the command center, her armor fully deployed, weapon systems humming with barely restrained violence. She had not spoken since they left her homeworld 6 hours ago. She had simply stared at that swirling anomaly like she could tear it open through willpower alone. Commander Zenth worked the tactical console with practiced efficiency. Your Majesty, we are detecting 7 ships holding position at the anomaly's outer edge. Unknown configuration, but their weapons are hot. They have been waiting. Let them wait, Velara said coldly.
They have had 3 centuries to prepare.
I have had 3 centuries to plan what I will do to them. I wonder who used their time more wisely. Marcus stood and walked over to the Queen, his casual stride at odds with the tension filling the bridge. Your Majesty, we need to talk strategy. Those ships are not just guards. They are a kill box. The second we open that anomaly, they will try to seal it with all of us inside. Then we destroy them first, Velara stated simply. We could, Marcus agreed, but that gives them time to activate a failsafe. Tanaka found evidence of a dead man's switch in the anomaly's energy signature. If the people controlling it die or lose connection, the whole thing collapses instantly. Your daughters would be crushed into quantum paste before we could reach them. Velara's claws extended, then retracted, so we cannot kill them until after the rescue. Exactly. Which means we need to be smart about this. Fast insertion, grab your daughters, get out, then turn those ships into wreckage. In that order. The Queen considered this, her 4 eyes studying the human before her. You have done this sort of thing before. More times than I care to admit, Marcus confirmed. Usually for considerably less pay and significantly worse odds. But yeah, pulling off impossible rescues is kind of my specialty. That and making terrible decisions that somehow work out. Your honesty is refreshing, Velara admitted. Most beings grovel and lie when they speak to me. You just say exactly what you think. Life is too short for anything else, Marcus replied with a shrug. Besides, you strike me as someone who respects directness more than flattery. You are correct. Velara turned back to the viewport. Very well, human. We do this your way. But understand this. If my daughters die because of hesitation or mercy toward our enemies, I will hold you personally responsible. Understood. And if they die because you went on a revenge rampage before we secured them, I will haunt your nightmares for eternity. Deal? Despite everything, Velara almost smiled. Deal! The retribution moved into position. Tanaka's fingers flew across her console, calibrating the dimensional breach exactly. One wrong calculation and they would tear a hole in reality that could swallow this entire sector. Approaching breach point in 30 seconds, she announced. Those 7 ships are moving to intercept. They know what we are doing. Shields to maximum, Zenth ordered. All weapons are charged but do not fire unless fired upon. Marcus pulled on his environmental suit helmet, checking the seals. Sam, you ready? Ready is a strong word, Sam replied nervously. Significantly terrified but willing to proceed is more accurate. That will do. Queen Velara approached the deployment bay where her personal strike team waited. 20 of her finest shadow guards, elite soldiers who had served her for decades. They stood at attention, their armor gleaming, weapons ready. Today we retrieve my daughters, Velara addressed them, her voice carrying the weight of centuries. I do not care what we face inside that anomaly. I do not care if reality itself tries to stop us. We are bringing them home. Failure is not an option. Death is not an excuse. Am I understood? Yes, Your Majesty. The guards responded in perfect unison. Marcus joined them, looking significantly less impressive in his battered suit. Right, quick reminder, folks. 60 seconds inside, maybe less. The planet is frozen, gravity is brutal, and your eyeballs might try to escape your skull because physics does not work right in there. Stay close, move fast, and for the love of everything holy, do not stop to sightsee. One of the guards, a massive warrior named Korath, looked down at Marcus. You are very small for someone so reckless, human. I get that a lot, Marcus replied cheerfully. Breaching in 10 seconds, Tanaka's voice crackled over the comms. 9, 8, 7. The retribution shuddered as enemy fire splashed against its shields. The 7 ships had opened fire, desperate to prevent the breach. Shields holding, Zenth reported. Return fire, suppression pattern only. Do not destroy them. 3, 2, 1. Breach initiated. Reality screamed. That was the only way Marcus could describe it. The anomaly tore open like a wound in space, and the sound it made was not sound at all, but something that existed directly in his brain. The viewport showed the frozen planet beyond, storms raging across its surface, a prison that had held 2 princesses for what felt like an eternity. Go, 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 Marcus shouted. The deployment shuttle launched, carrying Velara, Marcus, Sam, Tanaka, and 10 shadow guards. They punched through the breach and into the anomaly, and immediately everything went wrong. Gravity tripled. The temperature dropped so fast that frost formed on the shuttle's interior, despite the heating systems. Sam started bleeding from his nose as the dimensional pressure affected his inner ear. 55 seconds remaining, Tanaka announced, her voice strained. The shuttle crashed onto the planet's surface, skidding across ice that should not exist in any rational universe. They deployed the moment it stopped, weapons raised, searching. There. Korath pointed to a structure half buried in ice, clearly artificial, a prison built to last forever. They ran. It should have been impossible in that gravity, but adrenaline and desperation are powerful motivators. Velara moved like a force of nature, her armor compensating for the hostile environment, her focus absolute. The structure's door was sealed with technology 3 centuries old. Tanaka pulled out a hacking device, but Velara simply punched through the door, tearing it off its hinges with her bare hands. Inside, 2 figures huddled around a failing heating unit. Kira and Lena looked up, and for a moment, nobody moved. "Mom?" Kira whispered, her voice breaking. Velara crossed the distance in 2 strides and pulled both her daughters into an embrace that could have crushed stone. She made a sound that was half laugh, half sob, a noise of pure joy that none of her guards had ever heard before. "I found you," Velara said, her voice thick with emotion. "I finally found you." "Took you long enough," Lena joked weakly, tears streaming down her face. 30 seconds, Tanaka warned. "We need to move, now." Marcus shouted. The reunited family ran back to the shuttle, the guards forming a protective circle. They launched just as the dimensional walls began to collapse, reality folding in on itself like paper. The shuttle burst back through the breach with seconds to spare. "We are clear," Sam yelled triumphantly. "We actually pulled it off!" "Now we finish this," Velara said, her voice cold as the void. "Zenth, target those 7 ships." No survivors. The Retribution's weapon systems came online with devastating efficiency. The enemy ships tried to flee, but they had waited too long. Centuries of planning, of hiding, of thinking they were safe, ended in approximately 45 seconds of overwhelming firepower. Velara watched their destruction without mercy or satisfaction, just cold calculation. "Commander, I want to know who sent those ships. I want names, organizations, worlds, everything. Hunt down everyone involved in taking my daughters. I want them found." "Yes, Your Majesty." Marcus collapsed into a seat, exhausted. "Well, that was significantly more terrifying than I let on." "Everyone alive? All body parts accounted for?" "We made it," Sam confirmed, checking everyone over. "Holy hell, we actually made it." Tanaka was already analyzing data. "Your Majesty, based on the ship signatures and communication fragments, I believe I know who orchestrated this. The evidence points to the Vortan Syndicate, specifically a faction that opposed your rise to power 300 years ago." Velara's eyes narrowed. "The Vortans. I should have known. They vanished after their failed coup. I assumed they had died out." "They did not die," Tanaka continued. "They have been rebuilding in secret, waiting for the right moment to strike. Taking your daughters was meant to break you, to destabilize your empire. Instead, you became stronger. They failed." Kira looked up at her mother from where she sat, still processing everything.
You really spent 300 years looking for us?
"Every single day," Velara confirmed. "I turned the galaxy upside down searching. I toppled governments that refused to help. I bankrupted treasure hunters who brought me false leads. I became the monster everyone feared because it was the only way to have the resources and power to find you." "That is the most mom thing I have ever heard," Lena said, laughing through her tears. The Queen turned to Marcus, Tanaka, and Sam. "You 3. You did what my entire empire could not. You found my daughters and brought them home. Name your price. Anything within my power is yours." Marcus exchanged glances with his companions. "Actually, Your Majesty, we already discussed this. We want 3 things. First, payment as agreed, enough to keep our ship running and our crew fed for a good long while. Done. Second, we want full pardons for some past misunderstandings with galactic customs authorities. Bureaucratic stuff really boring. Consider it forgotten. Third, and this is the important one, we want you to stop being so isolated. Your daughters told us stories about you, about who you were before they were taken. Someone who cared about her people, who valued life, who believed in justice. 300 years of grief turned you into someone feared but not loved. Maybe it is time to find that person again." The throne room fell silent. Nobody spoke to the Queen that way. Nobody dared. Velara looked at her daughters, both of them nodding encouragement. She looked at her guards, seeing their faces clearly for perhaps the first time in centuries. She looked at these impossible humans who had given her back everything she thought was lost. "You are either very brave or very stupid," Velara finally said. "Can't it be both?" Sam offered. The Queen laughed, really laughed, and the sound filled the ship like music. "Very well, human. I will consider your words, but do not expect miracles. 300 years of habit are hard to break." "Nobody is expecting miracles," Marcus replied. "Just small steps. Starting with that dinner you promised. Your daughters assure me your chef makes something called crystal root stew that will change my life." "It will certainly destroy your digestive system," Kira warned with a grin. "Humans cannot process crystalline proteins." "Then I will die happy," Marcus declared. The retribution turned toward home, carrying a family reunited and a queen who had finally found what she thought was lost forever. Behind them, the anomaly collapsed into nothingness, erasing 3 centuries of suffering in a single moment. In the galactic news cycles that followed, historians would debate what happened that day. Some called it the greatest rescue operation in modern history. Others called it the moment the Reshkalith Empire began its transformation from a feared dictatorship to a respected power. But for Marcus Cole and his crew, it was simply another job completed, another impossible task checked off the list. They collected their payment, got those pardons, and even stayed for that dinner, which did indeed destroy Marcus's digestive system for 3 days. And as they departed Reshkalith space weeks later, Marcus received one final transmission from Queen Velara. "Thank you, human, for reminding me who I was. My daughters speak highly of you. You are welcome in my empire anytime. Just try not to start any wars." Marcus grinned and sent back a simple reply. "No promises, Your Majesty. No promises." The end.